This is a small Peruvian city of Pucallpa, on the banks of the Ucayali River, one of the many rivers that makes up the Amazon system. Here I'm using my old motor scooter to carry lumber to the river's edge. We had decided to build our raft and begin our journey at Pucallpa because the city lies on the only direct route to the giant Amazon Valley. Instead of balsa logs, we decided to use 2 dugout canoes on which to build the raft. We built a double X foundation for extra strength, and we laid the decking over this frame. It wasn't hard work, but I tell you, it was mighty hot. By the end of the second day, the raft was going to look like something, and we started bragging about how maybe we could sail a raft clear around the world. Of course, this is foolish talk, but I guess if you build something with your own hands, you feel extra proud. We made everything by hand, including the rudder. And here I'm cutting out the propeller blades. Actually, we built a double rudder system, 2 rudders, so the raft would have twice as much turning power. The propeller blade doesn't look like much, but it sure worked fine. Here's what we were counting on to furnish the power to turn the propeller. My old motor scooter, which has taken me everywhere, even across the Sahara Desert. I refused to leave it behind in Mexico, even so we paid plenty to ship it to Peru. It's like an old friend. We welded some old water pipe to a universal joint and then attached this to the motor of the scooter. The motor turned the shaft, and of course the propeller was attached to the pipe shaft. It was a real Rube Goldberg contraption, but we were very proud when it actually worked. It was always fun to see the shadows of our raft silhouetted against the banks of the river. Timbo was and is our first love. I think he enjoyed the journey as much as we did. We couldn't get him to stay still for a minute, and you know, he wasn't sick a single day during the entire adventure. For fresh meat, we found plenty of game on the river. And our favorite was a black duck the natives call puchuri. Once Bill back at 3 with 1 shot, and this was the record for the whole adventure. Now, my cooking is so bad that Bill and Bob wouldn't even let me make the coffee. So it was always Bob who cooked the meals ashore. He just threw the ducks in a pot, added yucca, rice, and pepper, and that was it. Now that's all over with, I'll admit it was trouble. But Bill and me, we didn't want to hurt Bob's feeling, so we never said anything. Thanks goodness we had some native brandy aboard, and it helped to kill the taste. We even put it into the coffee. But even Bob the cook had to have some of the stuff, as you can see. Bill is the fisherman of our group, but even so, most of the time, all he could catch would be the small savage piranha. This was usually our idea of early morning exercise. Swinging on the vines like Tarzan. I suppose this looks very foolish, but it was better than swimming in the river with a piranha. Anyway, most of the time the river is so muddy, it's better not even go in except to cool off. Now what you're looking at is a film Bob said to make as a joke, so he could send it to his relatives in Scotland. The idea was that Bob would wrestle with a big boa constrictor so his folks back home could see some of the danger in the jungle. Now, honest, I said, Bob, man, you're crazy to fool with that thing. But he insisted, and Bill thought it would be a good joke, too. So I said, well, have some crazy partners, but if you want to play jokes, it's all right with me. So I just took the pictures, and believe me, the joke almost backfired. Finally, they got the constrictor straightened out, and after that, it was very easy to handle. They even brought him on the raft, but Timbo had fits, so we let the snake go. Week after week, our little raft continued to stay afloat and take us closer to our destination, the river town of Iquitos, which would mean civilization and the end of our journey. You bet we were very, very proud of our raft, because except for my motor scooter, the whole raft had only cost $14 to build, and that includes everything. During the hot spells when the river ran low, we could not use the propeller and had to pole our way along. It was tough work, and I'm glad I was the cameraman, so I did not have to do it except once in a while. One day we saw these Shipibo Indians coming out of the jungle. They had been hunting alligators, but they had only one to take to the village. There used to be a lot of German traders in this region, and I spoke to them in German, wie geht's, but they did not understand. Anyway, we shook hands and made them understand. We wanted them to come on our raft. Bill and me played a few songs and did some singing. And even though they did not understand, they felt much better. I suppose all natives like music. Also, we made some fresh coffee. And they drank it, but I don't think they knew what it was. They were just being polite. We were very interested in the costumes, especially what the woman was wearing. It was very bright colors and very well made. They did not stay long, and I think they were nervous. We gave them a can of coffee. Also, we were pretty sure they'd throw the coffee out and keep the tin can. So they just paddled away to the jungles on the other side of the river. We were in no hurry. Whenever we could, we made some side trips on some of the smaller rivers that feed the Amazon. This particular stretch of the country reminds me of a picture I have seen of the Louisiana bayous, although I have never been there. These side trips were a little too restful for me, so I did a lot of loud singing, but frankly it was never appreciated. At the same time, I did some steering with one foot just by touching the wooden board that connected the two rudders. All of us could do it without even looking. We had been told that just a few miles upriver we would find a small settlement of the colorful Jaguar Indians, still very primitive and uncivilized, so we decided to find them. However, nobody had told us about the giant tree that had fallen across the width of the river. Luckily, we were able to stop the raft before we had the damage. I fell in and got wet, but in this kind of heat you don't mind. The clothes will dry on your back in just a few minutes. Apparently, this tree had been down for some time since the natives had attached some rope vine and used it as a bridge. We had a machete aboard, but no axe, so we could not cut the tree and sail on. So the only thing left was pack up provisions on our back and walk in. Once we left the bank of the river, we began to realize that we had walked into a veritable animal kingdom. Some of the most beautiful, most unusual creatures you would find in any jungle, anywhere. This is a tigre. I don't know what you call it over here, but it's like American bobcat. This is a deadly black scorpion. During the night, they like to crawl into your shoes and clothes. After only a few miles, we grew very tired from not having done too much walking lately. So we decided to put up our mosquito netting and continue our search for the jaguars in the morning. Our luck was good, and we found a few of the jaguars just about a mile from our camp. The jaguars are one of the few Indian tribes in Peru who still dress and live as they did hundreds of years ago. They paint their clothes and their faces with the red juice of the ashotty nut. This dugout canoe being made from a satika tree because the inside wood of this tree is very soft and can easily haul it out. Later, they will fill this rough form with water, build a fire under it, after which it will be even easier to shape the dugout canoe. Completely by sign language, we made them understand that we would like to visit the village, and they did not seem to mind what we asked. It was only a short walk to the village, thank goodness, because of the months we had already spent on the raft, mostly sitting, had spoiled us. We were really out of shape. The village was not very big, maybe a half a dozen shacks, and altogether about 30 or 40 Indians. They build these shacks on stilts, which you might say helps air conditioning. At home, the Jaguar men do no work at all. They just swing in a hammock and watch the women do everything. Weaving, cooking, taking care of the children, and even make the native brew called masato. The Jaguars, like the Jibaros, are great hunters with the blowgun, and they also use the deadly curare poison. They are very accurate with the blowgun to up about 100 feet, and we saw this Indian kill an armadillo at about 70 feet. There wasn't too much else to see or to do at the village, so we left the same afternoon and spent the night back on raft. Several days later, we made another side excursion because the river looked so pretty. But after an hour, we were plenty sorry. This small river was just full of river grass and the weeds were full of spiders. It reminded me of a movie, The African Queen, when Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn had to push their boat through this same kind of swampland. The place was also crawling with snakes, which gave us a chance for target practice. And every few minutes we had to clean the propeller shaft of weeds. This wasn't bad except for the piranhas. And here's the biggest boa constrictor I have ever seen. I can think of a lot of better places to spend the night, but we had no other choice. We put up the mosquito netting and took turns doing a lot of beefing. We didn't sleep too well that night, believe me. 2 days later, we were back on the big river and run into the worst rainstorm of the 7-month journey. At this point, the Amazon is 4 miles wide, as big as a small lake, but as you will see, the water is as choppy as an ocean. It's easy why I got the job of bailing. Bill and Bob said I had the biggest hat, so also the biggest helmet. The storm lasted almost 6 hours, and our wonderful raft took the punishment with almost no damage at all. Just the rudders were twisted a little bit. But you know, folks, although it rains very hard here and almost every day, this is the best part, the wonderful sunshine that follows the storm. As we came closer to our final destination, Iquitos, we saw signs of civilization. People would wave at us, and really after 7 months, it was good to get away from snakes, spiders, piranhas, and floating trees. It was time to say goodbye to our wonderful raft, and we decided to burn it. So we doused it with the gasoline we had left over and watched it go up in flames. Why did we do this, you may ask? Well, without the motor of my scooter, which I naturally would not leave behind, the raft was worthless. It could not be navigated. And we were afraid that some kids might hurt themselves by trying to sail it. Or it might float downriver and cause an accident, especially at night. We had to do it. Well, this is the way it ended, the adventure of 3 men on a raft.